Welcome back to the Lynn Hayes Freeland Show.
We're back here on the Lynn Hayes Freeland Show. I didn't change guests, but I did get his name wrong the last time. I introduced him incorrectly. Robert Wilson is with us today. He's here from Smith Barney. We're talking about finances. Let me apologize for that. Thank you for setting me straight on that. And I mentioned we were going to talk about layoffs, and this is the time. I mean, the realities are every day you turn on the news, you pick up the newspaper, you hear about layoffs. You can't really position yourself to, other than they say, making yourself invaluable to your employer, but sometimes it's just inevitable. Layoffs are coming, and they're coming for you.
Right, sure. And, you know, I think a lot of times people think working with a financial advisor is all about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and things like that. But sometimes what I advise my clients is, you know, the best investment might be in yourself. And so you've got to be able to take a look at what's going on in your industry. What would happen to my well-being if for some reason I got laid off? What's going to happen if technology changes my industry and they ship my job overseas? And so if you stay on the pulse of what's going on, you can be ahead of that. So maybe you need to take a class or get some books or get retrained and figure out what your next move is going to be. You probably need to be one step ahead of where your company is so you can be prepared in that situation.
Let me just go back a little bit and talk about you for a second, because when we talk about financial advisors, how did you get interested in this?
Well, you know, I was always really fascinated with how, you know, people make money. And I have an engineering background. I worked in consulting for a couple of years, and then I went back to school and got my MBA at Carnegie Mellon, and that's when I really started to understand the markets more and really wanted to pursue that as a career. And, you know, it allows me to still be an engineering technology kind of guy, you know, part of the day analyzing the markets. But I was never the pocket protector kind of engineer. I enjoy being out amongst people, talking, building business, and helping folks on an individual level, and it allows me to do that too.
So when you look ahead, I mean, certainly one of the stories this past week, and I don't think that the Wall Street story is going to go away anytime soon, and I guess one of the big stories this past week has been the fact that a lot of the banks are now saying they're not going to give bonuses this year.
Sure.
But as you look ahead into 2009, what do you think some of the big financial stories are going to be? And how are they going to affect us?
You know, unfortunately, you know, we may see, you know, some more financial companies, you know, go out of business. But I think what's important for people to know, and just to give people a little comfort in this time, I mean, there's a lot of comparisons to the Great Depression. In the Great Depression, we lost about 36% of the financial institutions at that time, and people lost real money. There was no FDIC at that time. Even in the savings and loan crisis in the late 80s, early 90s, we lost about 20% of those institutions. Right now, we've lost less than 1% of our financial institutions, and people have not lost real money. So if they had money in a bank, they went to sleep on Friday, heard Saturday the bank went out of business, Monday morning they reopened, they could get their money under the name of a new bank. And the FDIC has actually raised the limits to $250,000 to next year where your money is insured. So all of those things make this time a little different, even though it's still scary, and it's going to take some time to play out, but I think it's important to note those differences.
And you know, it does have an impact, and it's kind of interesting because I know that, and this is, I don't know why these things come to me, but my grandmother always washed off her tinfoil and put it on the dish rack. And in my mind, it was always because she went through the Depression, and that was one of the things you did. You reused everything.
Right.
How do you think we will be, as we hopefully turn this corner? Will we do things differently? Will we be affected over the long run?
I certainly hope so, because, you know, I talked about the gotta have it now syndrome. You know, I think we do spend a lot of time buying a lot of things we don't really need with money we don't have to impress people that we don't even really like all that much. And so I hope that people don't have short memories this time, and they realize that, you know, recessions like this typically happen every 5 years, but we're always so surprised the next time it happens. And it, you know, when things are good, it seems like they're going to be good forever. And when things are bad, it seems like the bad times are never going to end. I hope what happens here is that people remember when things do recover, that I need to be mindful that at some point, you know, we're going to have another downturn, and how do I put a plan in place to be ready for that?
So how do you do that? Because here's the reality. A lot of folks are living check to check. And if you look at their bank statement or you look at their pay stub or whatever, there's barely enough to do what you have to do without putting that little bit aside to actually save that money that you were talking about.
Right.
How do you do that then in this day and age?
You know what? A part of it's going to come down to, what your job is and what your lifestyle is. So if you have a certain, level of income, you've got to figure out what lifestyle you can lead based on net income, and you can't try to live beyond your means. And if you want to do that, perhaps you need to take a look at, again, getting retrained, getting some new skills, and getting a new position where you can, live the type of lifestyle, that you want to lead. So, it's a lot of times it's difficult to be introspective like that and figure out what it is that you can do to better yourself. But hopefully this type of crisis that we're in allows us to do that.
I would say, yeah, that means answering some real hard questions and being real honest with yourself, which we all know that some of us have some difficulty doing. We'll take a commercial break. We have a lot more ground to cover this morning on the Lynn Hayes Freeland Show, so don't go away. Yeah,
Don't go away. The Lynn Hayes Freeland Show will return in a moment.